Well, welcome to a week later. We definitely waited a week to record.
We really did.
We definitely did.
True.
That
We
is why
decided to
Jack
wear
is wearing
all
the
the
same
same
shirts. I'm your
I'm
host.
wearing my same voice.
I'm your host, Gabe. This is my co-host.
I'm Liam.
I'm Jack.
Hello, my name is Eddie.
They call me Eddie.
And I'm no longer Mega Overlord of the Universe. I got voted out of office, so I'm just Layla now.
Okay. Anyway,
What's the topic, Gabe?
we're going to talk about conversation just as a whole.
Conversation.
Because
We're
I
gonna have
ran
a
out of topic.
conversation.
We're
about
gonna have a
conversation.
Here's a meta idea. How about we don't have a conversation about conversation? It's just 15 minutes of blank air.
about conversation.
We just mute the mics and go
here
get a
is our
pizza.
silence about conversation. We're gonna have a conversation about silence.
Next week. That'd be pretty cool.
That makes for terrible podcasting.
I've started.
Well, no, because the thing is like you make it seem like maybe there will be something down the line. You know, it's just like, maybe the silence will break.
You throw a couple coughs and
Yeah.
sneezes in there.
Just like a
Just
a
to really
small
bother
No,
Layla.
back
you
scrooge.
just start sentences. You go, so.
I've got this buddy who.
Well, have you interacted with the Mills family? Because they do that all the goddamn
Oh,
time.
It's
They will just
great.
be like, so there was this one time. I'll be like, and they'll be like, and what? I was like, you started a conversation and didn't finish it.
There have been so many times. Which one?
I'm so glad they've never done that around me, because you know how I'd react. They'd go and they'd be like, so, and I'd be like, fuck you!
Well, they're just so like passive that usually people just start talking over them. But like being in conversation with just one of them, you'll just hear them go, so.
They're
And
just
if-
waiting
and
for
once
someone
you
to
start
interrupt.
noticing it, I'll just be like waiting, and I'll be like, so what? He was like, I don't know. I was waiting for you to say something. I was like, that's not how that works. If you want me to talk, ask a question, give me a topic. You can't just say, so. Let me go off that.
In my family, it's tradition if somebody just says so and fades off to say buttons.
Buttons.
But
For me, the most recent thing that I've done, this kind of made a comeback recently, is after a very long period of silence, I say, so do you ever get a nosebleed in the shower and just go, ah?
I cannot stand periods of silence. I am someone who constantly needs conversation, or at least noise, to be going on. So I was driving around with someone, with a friend of ours, and he was talking, and he was just done with the conversation, and I didn't have anything to add on to the conversation. It was just not anything I knew all about, so I just went do 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 do, and I just like. And I just continued that for too long.
we could have a whole episode of just that.
Like it was just someone staring at me while I was driving the car, like panicking because there was nothing happening. I was like, I need a comment to be said about what I'm doing. Something. God damn it!
Did they not even give you the relief of that? They weren't like, like.
I just got. I got a stare of horror at what is happening right now.
I think what I would probably do if you
Is
did that
join
around me
in?
is, yeah, we'd start just a
That would have been way
acapella
better than what I
jam.
got.
Totally.
Well, so
We could have 15 minutes of Jazz Odyssey one of these times.
Acapella jazz odyssey.
So.
no, that was it. So.
God.
Well, I remember. I think Jack and Harry, you were actually there for this, but we were at the Mills family house, and everyone was just laughing, and there was just this lull in the conversation. Everything just goes quiet. No one's saying anything. It's just an awkward silence. And I just go. And Isaac says to me, "Damn it! I've always wanted to do that."
I remember that.
Classic.
I think that was Thanksgiving.
No, it was New Year's.
Year's?
That's
New
it.
Year's. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Because we did
Yeah.
Thanksgiving with Prendergasts.
Well, we had the conversations about memes too, and that
Yeah.
conversation was great because me and Harry just don't use memes because we feel
Yeah.
they're not unnecessary.
don't.
And
I thought you were gonna say unethical for.
memes
I have
are
an ethical
unethical.
problem
with memes.
Unethical form of conversation.
I only
What would
use
Socrates
free-range
say
games.
about memes?
I'm sure Socrates could have a very long and interesting conversation about memes, but
Dude.
depending on who the other person is, it might leave them just feeling really frustrated.
I'm sure we could have a 15 conversation on Socrates and memes,
What's it-
or either or
One of
both.
the Greeks was against writing. I can't remember.
Dude.
Was it Socrates or Plato?
I,
That was morally against writing as a system.
okay, I don't know. Well, do you mean like Plato being kind of against fiction and like storytelling?
No, like
'Cause-
literally like writing stuff down. He thought it made people duller and not have to remember things.
Oh, you mean like people who?
It's
say
probably
that
one of the-
technology
Oh,
makes us
like,
dumber and not have
it
to remember
totally
things?
does.
It was probably
but-
one of the pre-Socratics.
Was it?
Probably
Maybe. I don't
like
know.
Aristophanes or
We
something
can
like that.
Google this and answer it, you know,
In
a
5
future episode, and get back to conversation because we
All right.
talked
Do we have a
very
comment
little
section?
about.
Can we ask people to tell us in
conversation.
the comment section?
Let's have a comment section. That'd be pretty cool.
Very cool.
People email us. People,
I
Let's
was-
just
carrier
I was
pigeon.
laughing back just for 5 seconds back to the philosophers. I was laughing because like on the topics of memes and philosophers, I thought of Descartes and I was just like, I think, therefore I meme. That was-
Well, so on the topic of conversations, do you guys prefer to talk over the phone or over text? Because me and Gabe are very much like over the phone. Like texting, it just seems less efficient. Like getting a call, getting immediate answers, having a conversation about it, getting it over
I-
with is way easier than like
I
waiting,
use,
not knowing if the person's seen it. Like
I use text and phone calls in very different circumstances. I think they each have their very specific purpose. I think calls are much better for an actual conversation, as is the like topic of this episode. But I use texts a hell of a lot more than I use phone conversations because most of the time I need to contact people. It's a short question or like a
Or setting
like
up a meeting.
setting
or
up a
something.
meeting to meet in person because I prefer being in person to talking over the phone.
Right.
So a counterpoint to that, and I understand that most people aren't like this. I had a long distance relationship when I was 15 that consisted predominantly of texting, and I got somewhat addicted to constantly texting, and I've had a number of relationships, not romantic, that have fed that addiction over the years. And I'm still
Wow.
very much attached to like picking up my phone and there being a text message pretty much always.
well, so I used to be like,
I'm a bit in the same boat. Like I prefer phone calls, but I will like just text someone if they like text. I don't like say, hey, let's do a phone call instead. Like I will always text someone back, and then I'll always check my phone for text and like expect something.
And
there.
the thing that I like about text is I can have multiple conversations at once. I can have long conversations that last throughout a day that I'm also interacting with other people, functioning in my daily life. It doesn't become the entire focus of what I'm doing in that moment. When I want to focus my entire attention on someone, whether that's a short conversation or a long conversation, I'm perfectly happy to call and in some ways prefer it. But if it's just kind of like another conversation that I'm having, which I enjoy having multiple conversations at once, I really enjoy the ability to text and be in multiple connections at once.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and for me personally, the like texting works well with how I have conversations in general. In conversations, sometimes I end up just like sitting silently and thinking for like a while, just thinking of things that I want to say or the way I want to say them, which is just literally what texting is. So,
Yeah,
well,
and I've
yeah,
also
so that's something I like about texting when I'm talking to people about their problems, is that they're not emotional. They have a lot of time to think about what they're gonna say, so I'm not misunderstanding them, and it's also not. I'll be like, yep, that's so bad, but like it gives you time to like read
Totally.
what they said, think about what they said, so you can respond appropriately.
I agree with that, and I am a proponent of taking the time to write out what you actually mean to say, either in text or in journal entry or email. But I will say that sometimes tone is very difficult to convey
Yes.
when you
Right.
do not have a voice or a face.
definitely.
Well, something I
But-
also no, go ahead.
Like part of like I've had a romance considerably built on text message. I've been people's, touchstone and therapist considerably over text, and I've it's been the predominant way I've gotten better at communicating through writing, right? Like, you write all the time
Yeah.
because you do, and that's what you're passionate about. But I would never have the opportunity to craft the way I write if it wasn't for text messages and trying to get across the proper tone. And then that can also come over into my real life of, like, I understand how to keep a conversation going and interesting without all this subtext stuff that can really enhance the way I talk with all the subtext stuff.
Mm.
I set my mic down for 5 seconds because I started playing with my beard, and I was like, "Oh, this is probably picking it up."
Yeah, I shaved before coming here, and that's not why, but you know.
That's not why, but
Another thing I like about texting is there's also somewhat of an etiquette to it, and when people don't have that etiquette, it really freaks me out. And the etiquette
like,
is
don't put a
basically-
fucking period on the end of your text.
Okay. So I put periods on the end of my text, and people always
Hey,
think
right
I'm
with you.
mad. Yeah, yeah.
Why would you get mad about that?
It's just a sentence.
I
Well, because that's how
don't
people
know.
convey that they're mad is they put a period because it makes it seem
Yeah.
more like serious.
It's more
There's
finite.
a tone to that.
right.
It's also
But-
texting just took away grammar.
I like texting.
Like, texting grammar is
well, so I
different.
was talking to my coworkers about
Texting
that,
grammar
and
is
they're a bit older,
different.
and they're like, one of the reasons, like, they thought it was funny that people still use IDK and stuff like that, and the reason that stuff originally existed is because you only had the numbers on your
Yeah.
phone. You had
Yeah.
to press the same button 5 times to get a capital K, and that's why they abbreviated everything, because they could only have a certain number of characters, and now we still use that, and it's just
Totally.
unnecessary at this point. But the etiquette that I like about it is you send a text, the other person texts back, and sometimes that takes a while. And, like, when people have that etiquette of they send a giant text to you and they want you to respond immediately, it's just, like, weirds me out. But that's what I like about texting is knowing the other person will respond until they kind of say goodbye.
So,
Right.
do you, like, I have a serious problem, and I don't know exactly where I developed this from, but I think it's just a, like, politeness thing of, I maybe 3 or 4 times in my life have sent more than 3 individual text messages without someone responding. Right? Like,
Unless I'm trying to annoy someone, yeah.
oh, yeah. Well,
There-
that
yeah,
doesn't
it's
count.
a comedic timing thing that can go along. with
So,
that.
so what? Define what you're talking about. Like, you send multiple
Like,
text
right,
messages
right,
in a
right.
row.
Send. Oh, I've got something more to say. Right. Send. Shoot, there's something else I want to say. Right. Send. And then even if there's something burning that I want to say, I wait for them to respond because more than 3 texts in a row is just really very much too
For
much
me, it depends
me.
on who I'm talking
I
to.
kind
Yeah.
of look at it like back in the day when you wrote letters. Basically, what that is it's a PS. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you write the same kind of things you would write in a PS in a letter, and I guess you can do a PPS if you want to.
But a
But
PPPS
Don't do a
is,
PPPS.
is truly
That's just-
ridiculous.
So
Because PP is fine, but PPP is not.
I used to be like really clingy when I was younger, so I would just like bombard people with texts, and that's what I like really appreciate the etiquette of text
Sure.
because it just
Totally.
helps me read people and how they respond to things.
Yeah,
Because I
can
used to
see
be
that.
like bombard people with the text when they didn't text after, and I would be like, "Are you okay? What happened? Did you die?" And they're like, "I was at this event here and there." I was like, "Oh, okay,
I was
that-
in the
that makes
shower,
sense."
Liam.
Like-
I was literally gone for
I
20
was
minutes.
just taking
there
a
was
shit.
a day where Gabe's friend Adriana was in the shower and she hadn't talked to him for like 3 days. And then
Okay,
he called
okay.
her and he called her and he called her and she's like, "He's not picking up, man. She's not picking up." And then she called me and she's like, "How freaked out is he?"
Awful.
Like, he's pretty freaked out. I
Awful.
was
Okay,
like, "Why?"
but-
She's like, "I was
so-
in the shower. We have 40 seconds. 40 seconds. Say what you want to say."
So the Signal app that a lot of us use as a messaging app has this wonderful feature in it where you can turn on the read receipts. And if you,
nice.
it's fantastic because it
Never
like
turn on
it'll
read
say
receipts.
underneath the text whether or not they've read it, and sometimes
It's
it just says
great.
delivered for like a day, and you just know that Peter is never on Signal anyway, so of course he hasn't been to his phone.
You call him.
Well, so I turn that off on my phone because people will see that I have read their text but not responded because I'll check the text, see if it's important, then like set my phone down and do what I'm doing.
I
before
never turn it on.
responding. And people would get like mad at me because they're like, "I know
Right?
you've seen the text. Why aren't you responding?"
Right? It's the fucking.
there's the
Good night,
we're
everyone.
gonna go over for a
Oh, we're
bit
going
because
over?
I have to bitch about this. Like, people getting mad at me. don't get mad at someone. If you're listening, don't get mad at someone for not turning on read receipts. Sometimes they just either A, forget, or B, don't want it on for like some weird reason. Don't get mad at them. You're a bitch. Shut up.
I respect that, but I think it's
I'm not mad at
a
anyone for
tool
turning on read
that
No,
I'm
not.
like
I'm not
having
talking
on.
to you. I'm talking
Why
to
are you
people in
pointing at
general.
us?
I don't know. I need someone to point at. I need to direct my anger. Okay. All right. This
Bye-bye.
is all right.
All right,
On to the
that's
next
it.
topic.